Hello everyone, my name is Tyler Middlebrooks, and today we're going to go over Y-90 resin microspheres. These are used for treatment of hepatic metastasis. Today we're going to do a brief presentation on sphere size verification. Disclosures: there's no financial disclosures. All subject matter is my opinion. Also references: we used Sirtex.com. They have several videos online that I used throughout my presentation. All of the Sirtex videos came directly from their website. Topics today: what are Sirsphere resin microspheres? Sphere size, overview of SEM, observations, results, and conclusion. Here we go. First, what are resin microspheres? We used Sirtex resin microspheres. This is Y-90 impregnated resin spheres. Sirtex is used for treatment of unresectable metastatic liver tumors. There are two portions to this procedure. The first one is the Maa mapping. The second is the treatment itself. The mapping is kind of like a practice run. Just real briefly, a catheter is placed inside the body into the liver, just proximal to a tumor or treatment site, and they inject, for the first part, they inject the MAA particles that goes through the liver. It shows where the capillary beds are, where the spheres during the treatment process is going to be located. You can kind of see here there is a catheter coming up and injecting contrast. If you look at the two arrows there, that shows you where tumors are located. Go through here, kind of briefly, contrast injected, using fluoroscopy to visualize the catheter placement. Some well-equipped facilities can also use CT hepatic perfusion to ensure optimal catheter placement. Here is a video. We did get this from the Sirtex website. This shows as contrast is injected into the hepatic arteries. You can see the arterial structures, but most importantly, you can see the tumors themselves. They kind of blush right there. Those are those three spheres, four there that you can see. Pretty interesting. This is an image of a MAA mapping. You can see the liver. You can also see lungs. Another reason we do the mapping, not only is it a practice run for the treatment, it also tells us lung shunt. Naturally in the liver there's capillary shunting, and you can inject and it just miss the capillary beds completely and go to the lungs. You don't want to treat the lungs with Y-90 at all, so we want to make sure that the lung shunting is pretty low. If the lung shunting is real high, you can either cancel the treatment or adjust the dose so the absorbed dose to the lungs is not going to hurt those guys. We do take anterior and posterior lateral images of the lungs and liver just to ensure that all the MAA was positioned appropriately. Mode of action and localization. You can kind of see here there's some tumors there in the liver. Those are the yellow. You can see a green catheter and some little beads placing. Over to the right, you can kind of see some vascular structures with beads going in it. So if you look to the left, this right here is a image, a PET CT image post Y-90 treatment. If you look at the green, that is the outline of the liver. That is the liver itself. But this bright red is where the Y-90 beads localized and got wedged and stuck in the capillary beds inside the tumor. So you can see that whole almost left lobe of the liver there is treated pretty densely, but then this right lobe is almost completely, I would say completely untreated, which is the target. You don't want to treat good liver parenchyma. So if you look over to the image to the right, this is an Axial Slice Pet Ct. It's the exact same patient. You can see, if you look really close, that there is, let me pull my, there is a tumor on the right side there, but they're not treating that in this one. But over here, this bright spot, that is the corresponding, this big red spot, and that shows you how dense these beads were packed in there and left the left side completely untouched. Okay, sphere size. Sirtex package insert states Spheres are between 20 and 60 microns. Capillaries are typically between 5 to 10 microns. So naturally, as these spheres get pushed through the vascular system, as soon as they hit these capillary beds, they're bigger than the vessel themselves and wedge and stop altogether. So now some capillaries in the liver are up to 40 microns in diameter, is why we need to do the lung shunt, the lung shunt or the MAA study, just because these spheres go through, and if they don't lodge into one of the capillaries, they get shunted into the lungs. And these spheres are optimally sized for capillary bed tumor placement. So, and these, I'm sure that was done by design by Sirtex, but it works out really, really nice. Here's a just a brief video that we're gonna watch, and this just explains the administration of the Sirtex Sphere. So.
Spheres Y-90 Resin Microspheres administration setup. The administration of the Spheres Y-90 Resin Microspheres must be performed by a qualified and Sirtex-trained interventional radiologist. The implant procedure takes place in the angiography suite. Spheres Y-90 Resin Microspheres are delivered to liver tumors by inserting a transfemoral catheter into the hepatic artery under X-ray guidance. Selective catheterization of the proper hepatic or lobar branches should only be attempted with a large lumen microcatheter. It is essential that microspheres are not delivered to other organs, in particular the pancreas, stomach, or duodenum. The microcatheter inserted into the hepatic artery must be placed distal to the GDA in order to prevent microspheres traveling to the duodenum or stomach. As a precaution, it is generally advisable to embolize the GDA, right gastric artery, and any small arteries that pass from the liver to the stomach or duodenum. If there is any evidence that microspheres may pass to the gastrointestinal tract, then the implant must not proceed. During the implant procedure, the radiologist should periodically ensure the catheter remains correctly positioned and that no reflux is occurring. Once the catheter has been correctly positioned, place the delivery box on a cart beside and slightly higher than the exam table. Remove the cap on line A and connect the line to the microcatheter using a wet-to-wet connection. It is preferable not to use another three-way stopcock on the microcatheter hub. Check the control knob is in the 12 o'clock flush contrast position and inject 2 to 3 milliliters of D5W with non-ionic contrast for injection from the B line to check that the microcatheter and A line are securely connected. If using water for injection, ensure the three-way stopcock is open to water for injection before depressing the syringe. A hand contrast run can also be performed prior to the microsphere administration to double-check the microcatheter's position. Turn the stopcock control knob to the 3 o'clock Spheres position. Now administer D5W or water for injection from the 20 milliliter syringe connected to the D line in pulses of 0.25 to 0.5 milliliters, separated by a pause. This will cause the Spheres Y-90 resin microspheres to agitate into suspension, passing through the C needle via the C line into the A line, which is connected to the catheter. It is important to inject slowly at a rate of not more than 5 milliliters per minute. Once the A line is preloaded with microspheres, 2 to 3 centimeters outside the box, stop administering D5W or water for injection into the D line. Turn the stopcock control knob to the 12 o'clock flush contrast position. Pulse 3 to 5 milliliters of D5W with non-ionic contrast or water for injection from the syringe connected to the B line to flush the microcatheter and to gently push the microspheres in. The slow pulsed administration rate of no more than 5 milliliters per minute helps optimize the distribution of microspheres and reduces the possibility of Spheres Y-90 resin microspheres.
Okay, so Next, we're going to go over overview of SEM. Just real quick, SEM is a scanning electron microscope. Scans a focused electron beam over a surface to create an image. The electrons in the beam interact with the sample, producing various signals that can be used to obtain information about the surface topography and composition. So, just a little image of a SEM. I keep going here. There is an image that I found of SEM. It's pretty interesting there. The extreme details. Okay, XPS, X-ray photoelectric spectroscopy, is a surface-sensitive quantitative spectroscopy technique based on photoelectric effect. And you can look over here. Here's an image. You got a beam coming in. It reflects essentially electrons and the composition of what you're looking at. Like I said, we're going to go over that just really quick, and this right here is it. So this is Cornell's XPS. Pretty interesting looking. Okay, so first, my expected observations. Whenever I look online at Sirtex, really any kind of microspheres of any kind, these are the images I see. I mean, to me they're relatively poor, grainy. I mean, they just kind of look like out of focus little balls. I mean, if you look at this one real close, they might have used some kind of carbon background for it, but it almost looks like it's photoshopped. I believe those were Theraspheres, but I'm not 100% on that. So, but anyway, they almost look artificial. The images don't quite look right. This is what when I imaged our sample, this is what we saw. First, the images before, the spheres were relatively smooth, or extremely smooth, really. What we did is we allowed our sample to dry completely on aluminum foil, and so the almost raisin-like surface is because the spheres were allowed to dry just at air. So, but I do believe that just exaggerated the yttrium, the Y-90 part of it, that are impregnated in this sphere. So if you look over here on the left, you see a single sphere. All of the, let me bring my laser pointer up here. These bright white spots, they are bright. We did use the XPS composition, surface composition, and they are more dense than the carbon or resin material that's wrapped around it. So yttrium 90, resin, mostly of carbon resin there. So also, if you look over here to the image to the right, you can see the sphere size variation. Again, because of the XPS composition, you can see those brighter yttrium spots throughout the spheres, but you get a real good idea on the size variation. You can see a couple large ones, mostly those smaller ones, and then a couple just kind of medium ones there. So again, this is on a 200. The one on the image to the right is a 250 times magnification. The image on the left is a 5,000 times magnification. Okay. Next, I just wanted, this is the image to the left is a 10,000 times magnification, and you can just you can again see these hyperdense areas, which are the yttrium 90, and then again you can see the carbon resin around. Over here to the right, this is without XPS, so you do lose a lot of this detail. You don't have the bright yttrium spots there. It's just kind of just one surface there. But again, the image to the left uses XPS surface composition, and the one on the right is just the SEM. So that right there is the difference. That's what you gain, that image resolution there. So we're going to keep going. These are more images. The image to the left is just a 100 times zoom, and you can see all of these tiny little spheres. And then the image to the right, that is a 25,000 times zoom up onto the yttrium, and you can kind of see it. It almost looks porous or lattice, or almost crystal-like in there, versus the extremely smooth carbon that's around it. So another image again on the left has the XPS, where you can really see that high detail. And then on the right, still extremely high resolution, but you lose a lot of information on the surface there. So again, the one on the left with XPS, the one on the right without. Again, some just more images. Gonna just let everybody look at this. Pretty interesting. Image to the left is a 500 times zoom. Image to the right is a 2500 times zoom. Okay, this one right here is really interesting. First, the image to the left is only 100 times zoom, but there are tons of spheres in this image, and you can really see pretty much the average size of the spheres are what the smaller ones are. And then you see a handful of the larger ones, but it pretty much seems that they're almost all one size. And then there's a couple that are just a little bigger. And if you look real close, there's just a very, very small handful that are somewhere in between. But it seems like they're pretty much these smaller ones or the larger ones. Using this image to the left, I used the scale at the bottom and was able to measure and get not an exact measurement, but an approximate measurement of the sphere sizes. Let's see here. This right here is two images that are extremely zoomed in. The image to the left is a 50,000 times zoom right up into that yttrium. You can see, you can't see just a ton, but you see a little bit more than what you are initially realizing. If you look to the left, that extremely smooth, appearing almost plastic looking surface, that's the carbon resin that the yttrium's impregnated in. And then the big kind of white right in the center, that is the yttrium itself. Again, you can kind of see it almost looks spongy, maybe a lattice kind of texture, but you're really able to see that a little bit better. The image to the right, the exact same image, just instead of 50,000 times, it's 25,000 times, and that kind of backs out where you can see what you're looking at, and just incredible detail on these nanostructures here. So again, more images. First, the one on the left is just 100 times, the one on the right's 1,000 times. So really, really good images. I'm really, really happy with the way everything turned out. So I'm going to keep going. Again, these two are both without XPS, so still really good images. But you can kind of see, that that kind of porous or lattice structures right in here and over here. You can kind of see that, but it's just that detail's gone. So it's kind of tough. It's almost all the same kind of gray color there, but still really good images. 100 times zoom, 5,000 times zoom there. Okay, so what I did is I wanted to evaluate and see, and measure and verify the sphere sizes. Again, 20 to 60 is what the package insert says. First we're going to look at this red circle. Now it's not exact by any means, but I did my best trying to count every sphere that I could see. I'm sure there are tons of spheres below what I can't see, but just what I can see from this one image. First, I measured all the spheres as I was going and counted them. And in the red circle, I found that almost every sphere was 19 microns in size. I found 194. Also, there were 18 that were, or there were 26 that were approximately 18 microns in size. There were 4 that I found that were around 30 and 2 that were around 50. And you can look, the 85% of that red circle was all exact, right at 19 microns in size. In total, I found 226 spheres in that red circle. Now, I did the exact same thing with the yellow circle just to the right and found almost the exact same results. 126 spheres were 19 microns in size. There was 112, 1 that was 30, and 1 that is 50. So now the package insert says that all their spheres, or it says that their spheres are 20 to 60 microns in size. 1 micron is an extremely small difference, and I would assume, without having imaged the spheres with like a biological type prep, that they would be just a little bigger, because we didn't allow any kind of the fluid of the surface to shrink up just a bit whenever they're dehydrating. So and then I went through and counted, to the best of my ability, counted the spheres, every sphere in this image here to the right. Now, I got approximately 2,500 spheres. So I'm going to just say that there's around 2,000 to 3,000 spheres in this one image that I can see. Again, there's probably several that are kind of deep that we can't see, but the average sphere size is 22 microns, which aligns near exact where the Sirtex package insert says. Smallest one that I found in this image was 12 microns. It was kind of busted and ruptured, and there was only found one that was that size. But the largest I found was 60, which again is a lot right in there, aligned with the package insert. I'm going to go through these last little bit here kind of quick. The XPS we looked at. This right here is a background. Not a whole lot of anything. There's aluminum, oxygen, carbon. The sample number 1, it really shows that, one, there is yttrium in the sample. Now, only 2% was yttrium, but over the whole sample, there's if you look, there was just those little white dots on each sphere. So a very small sample, but it does look like yttrium carbonate is in there, and that's what we're looking at. So also quite a bit of carbon, but all the sphere appears to be carbon completely. So we'll keep looking at here. There's a binding energy over there to the right there. So sample number 3 again shows the exact same thing to a little bit smaller amount. Majority is aluminum and oxygen, and I believe that's because we use the aluminum foil, and it's oxidizing, so that's why we're seeing a lot of that. Also, carbon again holds the one of the main atomic structures in there, which what we would expect. Okay, that right there is it. If you have any questions, please let me know. If not, hopefully we can use the EDS whenever it comes up, and we'll be able to evaluate this sample a little bit more in detail. Thank you.